Come back here. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to stand here. Sorry to put my back to you guys, but this works best. Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak. When I called to get on the agenda for tonight, it was to put to sleep a rumor or allocation, or however you want to put it. But since I got on the agenda, there's been two other things that have cropped up, so I'm just going to put all three of them to rest tonight, hopefully. Anyway, this proctology exam will be done when I'm done tonight. And Summer, please feel free to video and use it however you like. There'll be three kind of different segments I go into, so you may be able to divide it up. The first one is not the reason I got on the agenda, but it came up later. If anybody has had a campaign meeting with me, you know that I usually don't travel alone for good reason. So they keep track of what I say so I don't get myself in trouble, and they keep track of what the other person says. I had one of those such meetings a couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. And then aside from that, this other rumor that I'm going to talk about second keeps reoccurring. So that's when I called to get on the agenda for tonight to put that to rest. Shortly after that, I got a phone call. Late at night, about an hour after I normally take phone calls, but before I went to bed, from somebody asking if they needed to write a rebuttal for what I was going to say. And I was stunned on, why would you need to do that? And assured them that what I was on the agenda to talk about had nothing to do with them, and went to bed scratching my head. The next day, somebody that's familiar with my campaign and my stump speech and all the things I've talked about that needs to happen in Kootenai County, emailed me the text of a publication alternate to the press. I read that publication, and lo and behold, I see in there, pretty much verbatim, my stump speech, but it's missing the quotation marks and a footnote to my name. I'm like, wow. Well, imitation is supposed to be the best thing of flattery, so I guess I should be flattered. And then I became very disappointed at the lack of character. And then somebody else texted me that again and said, did this person have on a recording device when we met? I said, I don't know, but it sure looks familiar to me. So for that person that called me, yeah, I did end up talking about you because I guess your guilty conscience got the best of you when you stepped me off early, when you were worried about it. The second thing I want to talk about is my career in Texas at the Travis County Sheriff's Office. And I guess before that, to kind of set this up, I did not grow up political. My parents were not political. I can vaguely remember them talking about Jimmy Carter when I was a kid, and that was my extent of politics growing up. When I got to the sheriff's office and was involved in the sheriff's office, and most sheriff's departments, you cannot be political because it's going to get you in trouble with the sheriff. Our sheriff's department grew up enough that we started an association. I was an association member, but not really involved. And then we had a Republican candidate run for sheriff in Travis County, Austin, Texas. Did you get that? A Republican candidate in Austin, Texas. He's the first sheriff, I think, ever to be elected as a Republican, and darn sure the last. And as an association, we helped him get elected as sheriff because he promised he was going to fix our pay, much like what's happening with Kootenai County now. Once we got him elected, he promptly forgot who we were. I went to our association meeting and raised Cain with our association on how we just got did by this guy we helped get elected. The association president, wanting to have a problem solver, not a problem spotter, pointed to me and said, then you're in charge of the committee to fix it. If you know me at all, you know I can be described as stubborn, driven, and some other words. So I took that challenge to fix our pay to heart and became political in our association, started having meetings with our county commissioners, of which we had 5, all Democrats, because in Austin, Texas, the only political party that is active is the Democratic Party. The one sheriff we got elected was a albatross and proved himself to be unworthy anyway. So I became politically active as an association member and started communications with the commissioners. And within a 2-year period, through those communications through those relationships that I built with the county commissioners, and while I was going to county court and testifying on behalf of the deputies and fixing our pay, after I would get done in county court, or the commissioner's court, frequently the sheriff and the chief deputy would walk in behind me and argue against me to fix our deputies' pay. I won, which as a sergeant got me some choice assignments, but I won. And from that, I earned a state leadership award, Officer of the Year, for standing up for our people, and I won an agency accommodation for leadership. I then became a president of the association. I became president of our political action committee because we did endorse candidates. But in all that, all the candidates we had to deal with in Austin were Democrats. That was the swamp that Austin was then and is today, although the Democratic Party of the 90s is not the Democratic Party of today. So during that time, yes, I voted Democrat, because that's the pond I was in and the fish we had to catch to get our deputies' pay fixed. If you know me any at all, or if you followed me on social media any at all for any time at all, especially before I became a candidate for the sheriff's race, you'll see that I can be very opinionated, and none of those opinions are complimentary to the Democratic or liberal side of the House. So to put that thing to rest tonight, I am not a Republican. Did I vote Republican in Texas? Yes, without choice. So I want to get our pay fixed. Democrat, I'm sorry.
Break that for the video.
I voted Democrat in Austin, Texas because that was the swamp I was in. I am darn sure not a Democrat. And extremely not a liberal. I voted for George Bush as governor of Texas, who is a Republican. My SWAT team did a lot of security for Governor Bush and then President Bush. So that is the second thing I wanted to put to bed, is I am not a Democrat trying to deceive the Central Committee to help me get elected sheriff as a Republican. I've taken 3 oaths in my career, one in the Army, one as a policeman, and one as a deputy sheriff, to protect the Constitution of this land and you, and I've never backed off of that oath. And I'll fight for the flag and I'll die for you. I'm not sure there's very many Democrats that can say that. Third, much to my surprise, well, not really. I was going to say much to my surprise, but it wasn't my surprise because I knew it was out there. As I've told many of you in my various meetings and conversations, when I got into the sheriff's race, I got into the sheriff's race for 2 reasons. First, I strongly felt then, and I strongly feel today, that the Lord put me into this race for such a day as this. Second, I'm in this race because of men and women of the Sheriff's Department, current and retired, asked me to be. And for reference, the gentleman standing here by the door, raise your hand, John, is a 28-year veteran of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, retired, and most of that time he did background investigations. John will be glad to talk to any of you after tonight when we're done, or if you want to let him talk, I doubt it, but if you want to talk to John when we're done about my character and background investigations in the Sheriff's Office, he'd be glad to do that. Thank you, John. So the first reason was the Lord put me in this race, and the second reason is the officers who know me from my training company asked me to be in this race. Because I have the hands-on experience, proven track record of solving the issues Kootenai County faces today. And I am the only candidate in this race that has that track record. Am I clean, squeaky clean? No. Is any of us? If you are, God bless you. I've been through some things in my life that I've asked the Lord why, and I've come to the conclusion that some of the trials I've had in my life is so that the next person I meet that's going through the same thing, I can be comfort to them. And if that's all I get out of this sheriff's race is for the next candidate that gets publicly filleted, I can be comfort to them. But I'm going to be sheriff, Lord willing, because he put me in this race. But if he ain't willing, then the next candidate that gets the proctology exam I got, I'll be there to hold their hand and tell them that's part of the deal. So did I file bankruptcy in 2005? Yes. Did I get divorced in 2005? Yes, to my third wife. Those of you that are familiar with this profession that I've been in since I was 18 years old, this profession can be very hard on marriages. In 2005, I was of a rank and responsibility that I was on call 24/7, very high profile sections and investigations, and that aside, his career is tough on marriages, and I'm living proof. I'm on number 4. Actually, I'm on number last. So in 2005, I got divorced from wife number 3 and filed bankruptcy under the guidance of counsel of this is what you're going through, this is where you're at, this is what you need to do. We have some lawyers in the room, and I'm sure the lawyers will agree with me. When you hire a lawyer and pay them money, you're supposed to take their advice. I did. And just a footnote, whether you find it humorous or not, somebody handed me this research. Below is a list of some great and famous Americans who found it necessary to file bankruptcy. All in all, not a bad group of people. The first one's Abraham Lincoln. Filed twice. Ulysses S. Grant, Thomas Jefferson, William McKinley, Dave Ramsey, the self-proclaimed get-out-of-debt guru, Rembrandt, P.T. Barnum, Mark Twain, Henry John Hines, the ketchup guy, Milton Hershey, Henry Ford, J.C. Penney, and Donald Trump. It is a legal process afforded the Americans of this country to get out of a crisis, and I took advantage of it. Was it fun? Was it embarrassing? Yes. Was it legal? Yes. Do I got a problem with money? No. As the paper said, I have a credit rating of over 800. Actually, what I gave to the press yesterday or today, from the 3 credit bureaus is 792, 798, and 801, I think, because I finally conceded to the bony pointing fingers and gave them proof. During my career, and actually the year after I filed bankruptcy and committed this mortal sin, my agency felt necessary to promote me to the rank of captain. During my career, I've handled budgets from $5 million to $80 million. I've got 3 leadership awards in my career based on my accomplishments. Bankruptcy not interfering with any of them. A friend of mine, I'm going to wrap this up. Oh, wait, I want to mention one more thing. The newspaper article that came out Sunday. Some of you know, and some of you have seen some of my presentations, that I know just a little bit about deception detection. Throughout my career in using deception detection and working several high-level investigations, normally the one squawking the loudest has the most to hide. Reread your article and see who's doing the squawking. That being said, when I got into this campaign, a friend of mine from Texas that ran for sheriff called me and told me I was crazy and said, that is a full contact sport. You better be ready. Well, I can stand here in front of you tonight and tell you that I did not get into this race naively. I knew what background I had, and I knew it would be out sooner or later. I was just naive enough to think I could control it, but actually it couldn't have worked out better. Anyway, he said, this is a full contact sport. So I'm here to tell you tonight that I'm on the field and I'm in uniform. I've got a couple tear spots and some grass stains from the hits I took. But if that's the best you got, you need to get back on the bus. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Whitehead?
Well, okay, so I wasn't too sure about you at first, but every time I talk to you, I get more assured of your ideological foundation. So I appreciate that, but this bankruptcy stuff is new to me, and I'm wondering why. Why is it new to me?
Well, like I said, public records are public records. I knew what's out there on me. I know what my life has been. And I knew that sooner or later it would come up, and sooner or later I would be the one to bring it up. But it just never could get in my mind to walk up to you and say, hey, I'm Rick, I'm the sheriff, by the way, I got bankruptcy. That just didn't seem the way to flow. But I knew it would come up, and it would come up when I wanted it to. However, that being said, I cannot buy the kind of publicity I got out of Sunday. My likes on my Facebook page doubled. My ground roots people that support me on Facebook doubled. The phone calls and texts I got in support, because the citizens of this county don't like dirty politics. And if you got the skills and the qualifications for this race, you don't need to do that. And I will never do that. And I know there's dirt that's been given to me, but I've refused it. Because I've got the skills and the qualifications and the hands-on experience solving the problem, so I don't need to talk smack. You only need to talk smack if you don't know how to do the job.
Any other questions?
I got a question. I don't know, I assume you've been here for a while, but there's one is a statement. There's a Spokane Valley sheriff who became famous for getting on a national cover of an article standing on the Gadsden flag. Spokane Valley, current Spokane Valley. Spokane County. Awesome. And his concept is that he wanted to get into an arms race with his own constituents, because he said he feared his constituents because they have a lot of guns. I just wanted, this is the kind of sheriff that we're not interested in. But I have actually a more simple issue.
Can I address that real quick?
Be sure.
I love the fact everybody's got guns, and I love the fact there's a whole bunch of cops up here. And when I'm sheriff, I plan on getting all those people in a room together and making them a posse, to when defecation does hit the fan here, I got some people ready to go to work.
The 48 other states in this union have passed some form of cannabis liberalization. 49. Yep, 49. But Idaho somehow says that they're the one state that can't figure out how to continue to enforce marijuana laws and to allow people to have their CBD oil medicine and to grow hemp. Only state out of 50. I didn't know the last one there. So one of the people who came down and advocated against people having the ability to grow hemp was the Sheriff's Association. So I'd like to know what your stance is on the legalization of hemp.
If you followed their Facebook post where they came out against hemp, you would have saw a post by me saying they were wrong. Hemp is an industrial product. It's not a drug. And I don't have any problem with CBD oil with it. I've got a dog that's got scads of medical issues, and we have it for him. Marijuana itself, marijuana is a gateway drug, and marijuana is equivalent to drinking and driving, and so I'm not for the legalization of marijuana, but I'm all for hemp. That the hemp stance to say Iowa took was stupid.
Question back over here.
Hey, Rick, I want to read a quote. Glenn Greenwald said, "Transparency is for those who carry out public duties and exercise public power, and privacy is for everyone else." In today's age where with the internet, very little is hidden anymore, is there anything else out there that you know that we need to know about that may come out in the future, in your background?
This has been a pretty thorough colonoscopy. I think I've got it. I think they pretty much got it out there.
Got a question back over here. Rick?
Richard, when I think of sheriffs, two exemplary modern-day sheriffs come to mind, Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Sheriff Richard Mack, the latter of which was the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Organization. What is your opinion of their respective careers?
I love Sheriff Arpaio. I love what he did down there with the tents and the stuff, because I agree with him on 100%. If the military can be out and eat rations out of MREs, prisoners aren't any better than that. Sheriff Mack, I'm a member of the Constitutional Peace Officers.
Excellent.
Back over here, Jerry.
I want to say, I appreciate you getting up here and speaking tonight. It's a shame that you have to go through this. Unfortunately, there's people who are nasty, and as far as the bankruptcy, I've never filed bankruptcy, but I don't know if anybody here has either, so I guess let those who live in glass houses throw the first stone. But it's a shame, because it's a real tough world out there.
It was not a decision made lightly.
Well, I'm sure, and like I said, it's a shame, but I do appreciate you coming and speaking about all three situations.
Thank you. Todd?
Just a couple things. One is, it's funny, Terry said that, you talked about combat sport with the elections. Terry's had experience, as a lot of us have, so.
Use your outside voice, please.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, elections are a full contact sport. Many of us in this room have experienced some of that, Terry being one. Appreciate you coming and talking to us today. I heard you mention the different budgets you've worked to. I think I heard you say up to $80 million.
Correct.
And you talked about some of the challenges that the Sheriff's Department has, and you were talking about having the skill sets to work on those. One of the things I think is some pay scale levels and some things that we need to try to institute. You've had some experience doing that. You think you can get some structure to that would make sense for the hiring and retention of our deputies?
One of the things that occurred out of the event in the 90s when I was working on our pay is I designed a career pay scale, because our pay scale before that was a 4-year pay scale. You topped out at 4 years. Anybody in their career for 4 years? That's what I thought. They're more like 20, 25 years. The sheriff we helped get elected took that 4 years money and spread it out over 8 and thought that was the fix. So I worked the commissioner's court, and I got adapted an 18-year pay scale for all the different ranks within the department, from lieutenant on down, showing their progression for 18 years, how they would move during their career, and if they got promoted, what pay they would go to. So they had a career path from that day forward. They called that scale the Peace Officer Pay Scale, POPS. If you want to search Travis County TV back in the 95, 96 area, you'll find me in front of the commissioner's store talking about that all the time.
Thank you. Back over here, Rick. That's right.
I just want to say that I think this is a little ridiculous that you're having to go through this as well. And I appreciate your support for a lot of the Republican functions that we've had lately. And that if you've made an enemy of the press, then you're doing something right in my book.
I figured when I read that on Sunday, somebody must be pretty scared.
I beg to differ. They came out with this way too soon. I think they threw you a softball.
Well,
Maybe they're in your corner.
that was the other side of it. I mean, my campaign can't afford to kind of call it the push I got out of that, the bonus I got out of that. But you're right, it did surprise me, as this was, if somebody was gonna play this card, I figured it'd been a lot closer to election day, so I thought it was pretty stupid how early it came out.
Any more, Mr. Baker?
I'd like to see your markup of the article and editorial.
Oh, I'm just gonna leave that, just remember those who scream the loudest usually got the most eyes, and I'll just let you discern that when you read it.
All right, thank you. Rick, appreciate your.
Thank you for having me.